Decadence, in my definition, which I'm stealing in part from people smarter than me, is basically a period of stagnation, drift, repetition, and sterility at a high level of sort of wealth and technological development. And the argument in the book is that this kind of decadence, this sense of sort of repetition and futility, has kind of defined the Western world, Europe, and especially the United States ever since the late 1960s and early 1970s. And that a lot of our sort of political derangements and cultural anxieties and uncertainties reflect this sense of disappointment that the future turned out to be not as dynamic and dramatic as we expected it to be. And so, you've had a period of economic slowdown and deceleration relative to the post-war period. You've had a period of demographic decline, which this is something that we've both written about, but we've ended up with a rich world where every country has below replacement birth rates. No country is replacing itself. That feeds back into economic stagnation. We've had a period of increasing political gridlock and sclerosis, which I think is the least controversial part of my thesis. Everybody can see that at work in Washington, D.C. And then a little more controversially, I argue that in fact, technology has been sort of disappointing, that we've had huge breakthroughs in communications technology, which is why we can still do a book event like this in the middle of a pandemic. But in energy and transportation and the built environment, certainly in space travel, relative to what people expected 50 or 60 years ago, we haven't had the breakthroughs that people imagine. So it's all iPhones and no flying cars, I guess you could say. So that's the basic argument in the first half of the book, that this is sort of where we are as a society, not hurtling towards either utopia or disaster, but in certain ways more stuck than we expected to be.